It's crazy to think that our mind holds us back in so many ways. And it's not simply the thought that holds us back, but often it's the feeling that's there beneath the surface. And what I'm realizing more and more is that what we are really chasing is a sensation. So if we have some fear in our lives, what we're chasing is the sensation that things will be okay, that I will be safe, that me, whatever me is, won't be threatened in some way. And so it's a simple thing, isn't it? The desire for sensation at its core is what we need. It's what we desire. And if we have the sensation, well, it completely changes our experience of the thing, right? Simple analogy you could think of the first time you tried to, ride a bike. Maybe you're really scared of riding a bike and you thought you'd fall off, but once you knew you could do it, you had some inner confidence. So the fear wasn't really there. There's kind of this trusting and surrender. Now these are esoteric and spiritual concepts, but when you think about it in terms of bike, you can start to see how natural and simple it is. In fact, you don't even think about it in terms of, I'm surrendering, I'm trusting. You don't even think about it. Just natural. I think that's part of trust, right? When we don't realize we're trusting, that's when we're really trusting. Although I do think you can still learn to be aware and recognize when you are and when you are not. So the example of the bike, it's such a simple example that you don't even need to have the awareness of it. But if it's the sensation that we desire, that part of us seeks, due to the mind and due to the sense of self that we desire, then it begs the question, why aren't people talking about this in its simplicity? Why are people chasing the external solution when you can really bring it down to such a core kind of root level synopsis, a root level statement that yes, it really is the sensation that you're after, right? So you want to accomplish something for how it makes you feel inside. And by the way, there's nothing wrong with this. I think you should be a monk sitting in a cave or in a monastery and just chasing sensation. I think that's another trap. I think we can do both and neither. I think it's situational, but I think using the external events to trigger where this unsafety lies, or where we want to do things from a place where we are chasing a sensation rather than embodied in a feeling of inspiration or desire of purpose from a place that isn't coming from lack, I think that is what the external situation can really bring about. Really allow you to pierce through the veil of that unconscious mind. But well, I think once that's done, once you start to see that, once you start to align in that purpose, vision, mission, action, that's when you come back to the actions of the external world and have a grounded kind of understanding and presence to operate through. And that's when what you work on matters. Because I think there's spiritual kind of teachings out there that's like just all go internally and almost disregard. There's like almost this a mild sentiment of disregard this world that we kind of live in. But I think that's another trap, because ultimately this internal world and external world, they start to dissolve and the separation between it starts to disappear as well. So you look at everything that's happening externally and it's all kind of operating within the sphere of consciousness too. There's no real distinction. In fact, the distinction is simply a mind-created distinction of, this is internal world, this is external world. But that starts to dissolve. In fact, you realize that you may be using the separation of internal and external as an excuse to not take aligned action, to not operate in the external world in the same capacity. So it can be an excuse, it can be actually coming from a different underlying concept of this fear. So I think they kind of merge back into one, internal and external. They kind of merge into this one whole space. And I think that's where the internal and the external merge back into one, and you're operating from a different space. I need to explore this more to put it into language. Now, just going back to the summary, the kind of the point of this video starting off, which is that what you're seeking is a sensation, which is okay. But we recognize that we're chasing a sensation. We recognize that it's beyond the external thing. We recognize that actually some of the actions may be rooted in fear that makes us play small, that makes us operate in a way that is less than what we are capable of. And we use the understanding of that, the recognition of that, to allow things to surface. These are symptoms, and we actually look beneath the symptoms and we see there's actually something more to it, and we go down, feel into it, we release what needs to be released, we integrate what needs to be integrated, we look at, we align what needs to be aligned, and then the space you're operating from changes, which results in the emotionality changing, which results in the feeling changing, and suddenly the seeking of that feeling is different. When the seeking of the feeling is different, the whole external experience of it's different, because the internal and external worlds are linked and symbiotic and cyclic, and they feed back on each other. So when you shift internally, there's an external shift as well.